Tribe, I become invincible with my 10,000 times bonus from the start. Chapter 71, Spend this 1 billion. Outside the city gate, there was a dark mass. Not only were there Pearl's troops but there were also thousands of dark elves and a huge dwarven army. Lillian was leading the heavenly knights and blocking their path. Li Cheng understood why the dark elves were here. They were all wearing silver-white robes, so they were obviously believers of Trelafani. As for Pearl's troops, they were very messy. There were many level 2 soldiers among them. Compared to the other players, they were considered pretty good. What surprised Li Cheng was the dwarves. He had no idea that he had made an agreement with other dwarves. Faced with Li Cheng's question, the dwarves spoke, one after another. We heard that you killed the goddess of poison and obtained the blueprints of the 9 hammers of doom. We're here to help you. Chase away those disgusting green-skinned monsters and kill them. Yes, kill them. At this moment, the system's voice rang in Li Cheng's ears again. Ding, dong, 50,000 level 6 dwarf warriors and 150,000 level 7 dwarf warriors have requested to join your territory. Do you agree? Ding, dong, 6,840 level 8 Moondance priests and 1,300 level 9 Moondance priests have requested to join your territory. Do you agree? Li Cheng thought that perhaps because his reputation value was high, there would be more people coming to seek refuge in his territory. Thinking up to this point, Li Cheng naturally agreed. He would not refuse Trelafani's believers. He was not going to ask them to fight as long as they ran to the altar every day to pray. As for the dwarves, although their grades were very low, they were definitely top-notch existences among the troops of the same grade. Even the worst of them could be used as cannon fodder. Not counting his own troops from before, just the ones that joined today could crush all the players at the current stage. When Pearl saw this scene, the shock on her face did not stop. She looked at the troops that had just joined Li Cheng, then looked at the crooked crows behind her. She was discouraged. Comparing them to her own was worse than death. After Li Cheng agreed, the system's notification rang. Ding, dong. Due to the large population of the Dark Elves in your territory, some extremist groups may attack your territory. Please, be on your guard and strengthen your defenses. Hearing the system's voice, Li Cheng smiled nonchalantly. The extremist groups that the system mentioned were known to think that they were the embodiment of justice, and they attacked others everywhere with the slogan of serving justice. In reality, these people were just motivated by their own intentions. If they really dared to attack his territory, then they would never be able to return. As the Dark Elves and Dwarves entered the territory, Li Cheng looked at Pearl, who had been waiting for a long time. Her expression was still very tired. It was obvious that she had spent the night organizing her supplies before rushing over without resting. At this moment, Pearl was indeed shocked as she looked at the epic grade city wall. If she were to attack it, she probably would not be able to even get rid of the layer of dust on it. There was also that legendary grade defense tower. There was not just one of it, but a large group of defense towers. If they were to attack her, one defense tower could completely destroy her. Today had really refreshed Pearl's understanding of the strong. One had to know that she considered herself to be one of the top unspecialized players in the Divine Dragon Alliance. However, compared to Li Cheng, she was the trashiest among the trash. There was simply no comparison. At this time, they had already arrived at the territory. Li Cheng pointed in a direction and said, "The southeast side of my territory is for you. You can move your territory there." Okay. Pearl nodded numbly. There was no longer a trace of resistance and hesitation in her heart. At this moment, she only had the desire to become stronger as the flames of revenge burned in her heart. Pearl quickly used the relocation order. After a period of space distortion, her territory successfully landed on the ground. Compared to Li Cheng's territory, her territory was undoubtedly pitifully small. At this time, Li Cheng allowed those dwarves into Pearl's territory. He did not care whether they agreed or not. If anyone had any objections, they could come and look for him directly. At this time, Pearl's territory had already been settled. However, the low-level soldiers that she brought were all trembling. They could not even walk properly. The giant frost dragons that were hovering in the air were emitting a terrifying pressure. This was not intentional. It was simply the natural restraint the dragons had toward other races. Li Cheng looked at Pearl's territory and understood her situation. In a word, it was too horrible to look at. What she lacked the most were all sorts of basic resources and the right to recruit soldiers. Thinking of this, Li Cheng casually divided some resources from his territory and said, "This is 1 billion basic resources, take it and use it." Even the usually calm Pearl was shocked when she saw him casually take out 1 billion basic resources. She even suspected that she had heard wrong, but the system's voice in her ear was telling her this was real. She truly could not imagine how strong Li Cheng was now that he could so casually give her 1 billion basic resources. Li Cheng did not care about her current expression and said, "Explore the surroundings first, then go level yourself up." Okay. Pearl did not resist Li Cheng's words. She was still immersed in the shock of his ridiculous generosity. After giving his orders, Li Cheng returned to his territory and began his daily routine. First, he collected experience points from the training grounds. Even with the 10,000 times amplification, the experience points in the training grounds were far from enough. Seeing this situation, Li Cheng recalled the memories in his mind. It was not difficult to obtain those intermediate and advanced training grounds. He planned to collect them when he had the time. Then, it was time for the various recruitment buildings. Ding, dong, you've recruited 2,000 frost marksmen and a total of 4,000 gold coins. Ding, dong, you've recruited 2,000 heavenly knights. Ding, dong, you've produced 500 frost dragon eggs. Ding, dong, you've used up your army spawn rate. All kinds of cards continued to be used. In less than a minute, all army recruitment was completed. 4,000 frost marksmen, 4,000 heavenly knights, 1,000 frost dragons. Li Cheng's current total military strength was 12,000 frost marksmen, 4,000 heavenly knights, 7,000 frost dragons, 1,000 holy light priests. Li Cheng did not want the dark elves to fight and the goblin miners were for Pearl. Was she not responsible for the exploration and resource extraction around the territory? Otherwise, what was a laborer for? Luna was still in charge of the archers, Lillian was in charge of the heavenly knights, Sylvia was naturally in charge of the frost dragons, and the priests were personally led by Li Cheng. Their numbers were too few and there was no way to recruit them. Right now, they were not of much use. Chapter 72, Super Large-Scale Event, Shadow Crisis. Pearl looked at the troops coming out of Li Cheng's territory, so shocked that she could not close her mouth. Then, she revealed a bitter smile. Now, she finally understood how big the gap between her and Li Cheng was. After Li Cheng's troops were counted, the three heroines were waiting for his order. At this moment, Li Cheng took out the dragon soul from his backpack. Although the dragon soul had a little over 10 million energy points, it could deal more than 10 million damage. After all, the full power of the dragon soul was 20 trillion. If the dragon soul was fully charged, it would be able to withstand 20 trillion damage. At that time, even if a true god descended, weaklings like Trella Fanny and Ella would have to fight for a few days. Ding, dong. You're about to extract the crown-grade frost dragon's bloodline to replenish the energy of the dragon soul. Are you sure? Hint: after absorbing the energy, the dragon's health will be reduced by half. The effect lasts for 7 days. There was a price for the dragon soul to absorb energy. The first time energy was extracted, a dragon's health would be halved for 7 days. The second time, the dragon's health would permanently be halved, and for the third time, the dragon would die. Even Sylvia, who had the bloodline of the ancient dragon god, would enter a coma for thousands of years after extracting her bloodline a few times. Her attributes would also drop rapidly. At this time, Li Cheng raised the dragon soul and aimed it at one of the frost dragons. Immediately, a shapeless and terrifying wave of energy spread out and enveloped it, and in the next moment, the frost dragon's HP was directly halved as it roared in pain. At the same time, the system's voice rang in Li Cheng's ears. Ding, dong, you've extracted some energy from a frost dragon. The dragon soul has obtained 100,000 points of frost dragon energy. Ding, dong, you've triggered a 10,000 times amplification. The dragon soul has obtained 1 billion points of frost dragon energy. As the system's voice fell, the dragon soul in Li Cheng's hand emitted an extremely dazzling blue light. Sylvia, who was standing by the side, was once again shocked. She could clearly sense that the energy within the dragon soul was extremely abundant, at least dozens of times more than before. No one else could clearly see it as she did. The energy within the dragon soul was extremely difficult to replenish. Even if all the frost dragons in front of her were sucked dry, it would be impossible for them to produce so much energy. Right now, Li Cheng was even more mysterious in Sylvia's eyes. When Li Cheng saw the effect of the 10,000 times amplification, he was quite satisfied. With the results of this experiment, he no longer hesitated. He aimed the dragon soul at the 1,000 frost dragons, replenishing 1 trillion energy points. He estimated that the maximum barrier of the dragon soul could be expanded to 10,000 billion Argentine pesos. In other words, it could block 1 trillion damage. The only pity was that the barrier could only be used on a fixed basis and it could not be moved. After putting away the dragon soul, Li Cheng took out the passage made by the phantom goddess from his backpack and a dark grey mist-like item appeared in his hand. Li Cheng crushed it without thinking. Kaka. The moment he crushed it, the space in front of him changed and twisted rapidly as a terrifying aura spread out. At the same time, the system's voice rang in Li Cheng's ears. Ding, dong, you've successfully used the legendary Great Shadow Tunnel and opened the passage to the Shadow World. Ding, dong, you've triggered a 10,000 times amplification. The passage between the Shadow World and the main world has been fully opened. Ding, dong, you've triggered the only hidden event, Shadow Crisis, and gained 1,000 reputation points. Ding, dong, you've triggered a 10,000 times amplification and obtained 10 million reputation points. World announcement. Dragon God Alliance player Netherworld has successfully opened the passage to the Shadow World. The passage between the main world and the Shadow World has a time limit. It will last for 3 days. The Shadow Dragon has entrusted all adventurers from other worlds to enter the Shadow World to clean up hidden evil. This time-sensitive quest has been distributed to all players. Complete the quest and kill the monster. You can obtain shadow points and consume points. You can talk to the NPCs in your territory and exchange various items, equipment, and weapons with them. Hint: the passage will open at 12 noon. The Shadow World's extremely dangerous. All players, please, accurately assess your own strength. Hearing the world announcement, all the players were stunned because in their territories, there was suddenly an additional monster from the Shadow World, which was a system NPC. What's the situation? I'm shivering. There's a very strong monster in my territory. Will he attack me? Sob sob sob. I can't beat him. Don't panic, girls. Come to me. I'll protect you. Girls didn't listen to him. He's just trying to scare you. That's an NPC, not a monster. F***ck. According to the official website, this is a big event. This is our chance, everyone. F***ck. Netherworld boss, you're the GM of the game, right? Everyone, look at the NPC's shop. You can really exchange for a lot of things. There are even legendary soldiers. At this moment, the players' territories were shrouded in a fog. Following which, envoys from the Shadow World appeared. These envoys were usually ghosts, natives of the shadow world who belonged to the neutral camp. Hence, whether it was the evil camp or the kind camp, they could all see the NPCs from the shadow world. The players looked at the NPC's shop and drooled. They wished they could just take all the items in the shop, as the items were not bad at all. All of a sudden, all the players were gearing up and sharpening their knives. Eagle Alliance, Heaven's Union. Eve was also browsing through the shop and her eyes gradually lit up. The items inside were also very attractive to her. Who would not be envious of the mythical grade equipment and legendary soldiers inside? In other games, no matter what the activity was, Eve would always be the first to obtain it. Such exclusive equipment should be her personal items. However, when she thought of Li Cheng, her lips curled into a cold smile. It seems like all the strong players in the world will enter the shadow world. Netherworld, you've been in the limelight recently. You know, there aren't just one or two people who want you to suffer. At that moment, Li Cheng was a little stunned when he heard the world announcement. He merely opened a shadow tunnel, but it was able to trigger a 10,000 times amplification that it started a super large-scale event. Of course, he knew about the Shadow Crisis event. According to his memories from his previous life, this event should only appear a few years later. He had participated in it the entire time, so he naturally remembered it very clearly. However, the problem was that the event opened now instead of in a few years' time. The rest of the players might not be very powerful even if each of them had a few 100,000 soldiers each. The game had only opened its servers for 2 days, yet they had to go to the shadow world. Would it be sending them to their deaths? Chapter 73, World Event or Solo Event. Although there were low-level trash monsters in this super large-scale world event, and there were new players joining Tribe every year, if one wanted to obtain a large number of points to exchange for items, they still had to kill high-level monsters. However, this super large-scale event was triggered 2 days after the server opened. Li Cheng was still a little speechless. He suspected that he had been plotted against by the Phantom Goddess. Thinking of this, Li Cheng asked in his heart, "Ella, is this your doing?" A god could naturally hear the voice of a believer, and by chanting the true name of a god, the gods could still hear it even if they were not called by their own believers. Just as long as either party was not blocked by the other. Very soon, Ella's reply was heard in Li Cheng's mind. "What does it have to do with me? I don't have this ability. You should ask the Shadow Dragon. You opening the passage is just an opportunity." Hearing this, Li Cheng nodded. In his previous life, it seemed that a player had unintentionally opened the passage to the shadow world, which then triggered a world event. Could it be that he had triggered a world event in advance? At this time, the system's voice rang in Li Cheng's ear again. "Ding, dong, respected Viscount Netherworld, please, head to the Church of Light's Battle Conference room to participate in the high-level meeting." This voice rang 3 times in a row. As the leader of the good camp, the Church of Light would definitely pay attention to this matter. As for Li Cheng, who was a high-level combat force, the Church of Light would naturally invite him to attend the meeting. At the time being, Li Cheng did not care about the Church of Light's matters. Instead, he looked at his own territory. A huge shadow creature had emerged from a crack. Its body was illusory but real, completely made of grey fog. Its body was 3 meters tall and the sharp claws on its hands were very long, emitting a cold light. At this time, it spoke to Li Cheng, "Lowly human, enter the shadow world and kill the evil creature in exchange for Lord Shadow Dragon's mercy." Hearing this, Li Cheng was stunned. A gold-grade shadow creature was actually so arrogant. However, it was protected by the Shadow Dragon. If he dared to attack it, it would infuriate the Shadow Dragon and it might jump out and kill him. Without waiting for Li Cheng to speak, Lillian stepped out and asked coldly, "What did you say?" The ghost was not looking at her, but when it heard that someone was provoking it, it immediately turned to glare. However, when it saw Lillian, it almost lost its balance and said in a trembling voice, Lord Lillian. At this moment, its body was in a daze, as if wanting to retreat in fear. Its dark red eyes were filled with disbelief. If it had a physical body, its body would have been drenched in cold sweat. After a few seconds, it recovered from its shock and asked carefully, "Lord Lillian, why are you here?" The anger on Lillian's face did not disappear. She continued to say coldly, "This is my liege. Why do you think I'm here?" The ghost was speechless as it wondered how it met Lady Lillian here. Then, its gaze fell on Li Cheng, then on Luna and Sylvia. Then, it saw countless frost dragons circling in the sky before it saw the countless legendary frost towers. The ghost felt its legs trembling. Where had it come to? It was too terrifying. If it was not for the Shadow Dragon's mission, it would have ran away long ago. When it recalled its arrogant words earlier, it wanted to slap itself a few times. Now that it was regretting its decision, it did not dare to say another word. After a few seconds, Lillian said, "Give me your authority and get out." The ghost was obviously shocked and shook his head repeatedly. "No, this authority cannot be given to a lord of the Otherworld." As an active NPC, they were responsible for the time players entered the Shadow World and the opening of the activity shop. However, Lillian did not care about that and continued to say indifferently, "The Shadow Dragon won't blame you for it." Hearing this, the ghost was still a little hesitant. If it was someone else who said this, the ghost would have angrily scolded them, but it did not dare to do that to this beautiful girl in front of him. Seeing that her words did not seem to work, Lillian displayed an impatient look. It seemed that she had to properly teach this ghost the logic of fists. A few minutes later, the ghost fled back to the Shadow World as the system's voice rang in Li Cheng's ears. "Ding, dong. You've obtained the Shadow Crack's intermediate switch permission. You've also triggered a 10,000 times increase and obtained the highest level Shadow Crack's switch permission. Ding, dong. You've obtained all Shadow Crack's switch permissions. Ding, dong. You've obtained access rights to the Shadow Shop. Ding, dong. You've obtained the only hidden mission, explore the Shadow Swamp. Ding, dong. You've obtained the only hidden mission, the Troubles of the Planar Caravan. Ding, dong. You've obtained the only hidden mission." Hearing the system's voice, Li Cheng was unable to react. Lillian had forcefully obtained the access rights, and as her lord, the access rights naturally fell to him, giving him access rights to the Shadow World. She even got the access rights to the activity shop on his territory. One had to know that players had to enter the Shadow World through the Shadow Crack. These passageways were naturally in the hands of NPCs. However, after a 10,000 times increase, Li Cheng had obtained all players' rights to enter. In other words, this super large-scale world event had instantly become Li Cheng's solo event. If Li Cheng wanted to mess with other players, he could wait until they entered the Shadow World and closed the exit, letting them die inside. After the players died, they would return to their own territory, but their troops would never be able to return. Unless Li Cheng opened a passage, those who were wronged would starve to death inside. Thinking of this, Li Cheng felt that this authority was too abnormal. Under normal circumstances, the Shadow Dragon would not allow lords to have such authority, but now that the Shadow Dragon had yet to appear, did this mean that it had tacitly agreed to this matter? Of course, Li Cheng would not be so bored as to close the player's passage. All activities had a purpose, and the Shadow Dragon would definitely not do something as boring as getting all the players to come just to kill them. Chapter 74, Divine Earl. When he obtained the access rights, Li Cheng also received a bunch of hidden quests. Now, his quest bar was filled with hidden quests. It must be known that some players would never receive a single hidden quest in their entire lives. Yet, Li Cheng's quest bar was filled with hidden quests. It could really be said that this super large-scale world event had become his own solo event. After dealing with the matters in the Shadow World, Li Cheng set off for the Church of Light. This was a good opportunity to earn, so naturally, he would not let it go. If he were to issue a wave of quests, many players would still come work for him. This time, Li Cheng only brought Sylvia with him. With the giant dragon flying in the air, it would be much faster than traveling on land. After a short flight, the shadow of the City of Light appeared in Li Cheng's line of sight. Before they even got close, countless black dots flew over from the opposite side. In a short while, they appeared in front of him. It was the Griffin Knight of the Church of Light, a level 9 flying unit. The leader quickly saw the Viscount medal on Li Cheng's chest and he was slightly surprised as he bowed. "Are you Lord Netherworld?" "That's right, it's me." Li Cheng nodded. Hearing Li Cheng's confirmation, these people let out a sigh of relief. A frost dragon that was close to 80 meters long almost scared them to death. At this moment, their griffin was trembling. The Griffin Knight comforted the griffin while saying to Li Cheng, "Commander Vic has been waiting for you in the conference room for a long time. Please, follow me." The moment Li Cheng entered the City of Light, the system notification rang. Ding, dong. You've entered the City of Light. This area is only open to the good and neutral camps. Malicious fighting is strictly prohibited in the city. Please, follow the relevant rules. Ding, dong. Respected God-blessed Viscount, welcome back to the City of Light. Along with this, Sylvia's anger could be seen. With a loud bang, she landed in the City of Light, smashing the ground into a big pit. The loud bang shocked many players in the City of Light. "Oh my god, is that a dragon? Oh my god, isn't that dragon too fierce? With its length and size, it should be at least a legendary soldier, right? It's Netherworld boss. I've seen him before. It's really him. Netherworld boss has obtained the recruitment rights of the Frost Dragon. I didn't expect the Frost Dragon to be so fierce." After landing, Sylvia transformed into her human form. She was quite beautiful, but the huge crater on the ground still made everyone's scalps go numb. Li Cheng shrugged at the commander of the Griffin Regiment. He did not say anything and merely led Sylvia into the church. He did not go to the meeting room immediately. Instead, he found Asilia, who was praying. With his current contribution points, he could definitely exchange for the Earl title. After becoming an Earl, his authority would be much greater than a Viscount. In the following meetings, the weight of his words would also be much greater. Li Cheng's contribution points were in the tens of billions. It was more than enough to exchange for an Earl's title. He did not hesitate and immediately chose to exchange for the Earl's title. After deducting his contribution points, the system's voice rang. Ding, dong, you've successfully exchanged for the title of an Earl. Ding, dong, with the title of an Earl, you'll enjoy the following privileges. Firstly, there will be no restrictions when receiving a mission from the Church of Light. You can receive the highest secret mission. Secondly, your territory will be under the protection of the Church of Light. Any attack on your territory will be considered as a declaration of war against the Church of Light. Thirdly, the Church of Light stores will offer you a 40% discount on all goods. Fourthly, you can now recruit paladins, no more than 1 million people. You can also command battles with no more than 1 billion units in scale. Fifthly, you can distribute missions to the outside world. The highest level of missions you can assign are SSS class missions. You can assign a maximum of 1 SSS class mission and 10 SS class missions every month. Lastly, you can independently formulate a large-scale battle strategy. Hearing the system's voice, Li Cheng nodded. As a high-ranking member of the Church of Light, he had to admit that the privileges enjoyed by an Earl were incredibly perverse. Compared to a Viscount, an Earl could receive top-secret quests of the Church of Light. One had to know that this kind of top-secret quest was not as simple as farming monsters or killing a boss. The top-secret quest was usually closely related to the overall situation of the entire continent. Usually, it was accompanied by super large-scale battles. If it did not involve billions of people, it would be embarrassing to say that it was a top-level secret mission. There were also millions of paladins that Li Cheng could now recruit, and they had to work for him for free. Moreover, he did not have to bear any responsibility for them besides providing them with food. Such units were the most suitable to be used as cannon fodder. Moreover, the scale of commanding battles had also reached 1 billion people. How many people did Death Valley have last time? It could be said that the limit had increased by a few times. Lastly, he could decide on a battle strategy on his own. An example would be the plan for the Shadow World this time around. Li Cheng already had a lot of authority and now, he could fight this battle however he wanted to. The rest of the good camp would have to listen to his commands. It could be said to be extremely ridiculous. After exchanging for the title, Li Cheng looked at the requirements to obtain the Marquis title. In his previous life, no one had exchanged for it, hence, it had piqued Li Cheng's interest. It was not that he did not check the requirements before. If one did not have the Earl's title, then one was not qualified to see the exchange conditions for the Marquis title. Marquis. 100 billion contribution points. 2. Command 3 large-scale battles that are above S class. 3. Train 3,0000000 paladins up to the maximum level with the lowest level being level 5. Seeing the 3 conditions displayed by the system, Li Cheng did not know what to say. He now understood why no one had exchanged for a Marquis title in his previous life. Just the contribution points required alone were enough to stop countless people in their tracks. Even in the latter stages of the game, killing 1,000 abyss demons would only help one obtain a bit of contribution points. Moreover, one had to be a high-level soldier, so it was unknown how long it would take for ordinary players to accumulate 100 billion contribution points. To Li Cheng, who had a 10,000 times amplification system, this was still not a small number. The second requirement was also very difficult to complete. The system's score was evaluated from many aspects, from the casualty ratio, battle damage ratio, and so on. It would all affect the final score. Meanwhile, the S-class battles would at least allow him to face hundreds of millions of evil troops, even killing a boss above legendary grade. The third one was to train 3,0000000 paladins to their maximum level. This was relatively easier. With a 10,000 times increase in EXP, as long as Li Cheng brought them to a few secret realms, their EXP could be maxed out immediately. Chapter 75, Empty the Shop of the Church of Light again. In short, exchanging for the Marquis title was still very difficult. In the current situation, being an Earl was enough. Li Cheng did not need to rush to exchange for the Marquis title just to improve his status. At this time, Asalai looked at Li Cheng in surprise. There were not many Earls in the entire Church of Light, let alone someone like Li Cheng. Not only was Li Cheng a non-believer, but he was also the fastest to exchange for the Earl's title in history. It took him less than 3 days to do so. The most recent Earl title that had been exchanged was 5 years ago, by the current commander of their army, Vic. At that time, he had killed 2 legendary grade demons in the battle against the demons and saved a medium-sized city. At the same time, he was also heavily injured. If it wasn't for the God of Light's miracle, Vic would definitely not have survived. Not to mention the title of a Knight of the Church of Light, any normal knight would have to climb out of the pile of dead people to be awarded. So, what did Li Cheng do? At this moment, Asilia was full of curiosity toward Li Cheng, hoping that he could answer her question. Unfortunately, Li Cheng was not interested in this topic, nor did he have the intention to talk to her. Instead, he opened the shop of the Church of Light. It was worth mentioning that the Earl's title did not unlock more types of soldiers and equipment in the shop. He glanced at the column of soldiers and thought for a moment. Then, he said, "I want all of the soldiers in this shop." Asilia was stunned. All the types of soldiers? She even suspected that she had heard wrong and could not help but ask again, "What did you say, Your Excellency?" "I said, I want all the troops here," Li Cheng repeated. Okay, but it'll take some time for us to gather them, Acilia quickly explained. She took a few deep breaths and suppressed the shock in her heart. After saying that, Acilia stuck out her tongue. Obviously, she was shocked by Li Cheng again. She vaguely remembered the first time she met him. She even asked him how to get along with the goddess. Only a few days had passed and everything was different. At this time in the battle conference room, more than 10 people had solemn expressions. There was a deep shock in all of them. Just a few seconds ago, they had received a notification from the system. Li Cheng had successfully exchanged for the Earl title, which shocked countless people's jaws open. What did this mean? This meant that in the entire City of Light, other than the Archbishop and the Saintess who were not in charge, only Vic and Li Cheng were at the same level. As for the others, they had to listen to Li Cheng's orders. This was the rule of the Church of Light. In today's battle meeting, Li Cheng and Vic would jointly formulate the strategy for this battle. Of course, Vic would still be the leader. After all, he was the commander of the Church of Light. Suddenly, a paladin ran in, filled with panic. He looked nervous and panted heavily as he went directly to Vic's side and said anxiously, "The Earl Netherworld has bought all the troops." Hearing this, Vic almost could not catch his breath. He remembered when Li Cheng did the same thing last time. Vic was a little speechless. "You're an Earl, can't you save some for the others?" After all, the shop of the Church of Light was open to everyone. If one had enough contribution points, it would be fine even if they bought all of them. However, what was the situation now? The Church of Light was extremely short on troops. After Li Cheng bought all of them, they did not have any more troops for the other players. Vic was very glad that he and the Archbishop had removed the legendary soldiers and a few divine weapons from the shelves. Otherwise, he would not even have a place to cry at this time. Li Cheng had already left the Holy Maiden's location and was heading toward the battle conference room. After he left, a few players excitedly walked into the church. "Ha ha ha, powerful paladins, wait for me, I'm coming. Hehe, I worked all night yesterday and completed quite a few missions. Now, my contribution points can be exchanged for dozens of level 3 soldiers. At this rate, it won't be long before I have a powerful army. How nice." Very soon, they came to Acilia's side and said happily, "Miss Saintess, we want to exchange for military services." When Acilia heard this, she felt a headache coming on. However, she still smiled apologetically and said, "I'm sorry, all our military services have been exchanged. If you want to exchange for military services, you'll have to wait a while." Those players could not believe what they had heard. When Acilia saw this, she repeated it apologetically. Then, those players collectively wailed. F***ck, what's going on? Who has nothing better to do after eating their fill? Did they exchange for all the military units? I had to work all night to collect all the contribution points. Damn it! F***ck, who did this? Sob, sob, sob. This is too unfair. Leave some for us." Naturally, Li Cheng did not know the reactions of the other players. Even if he did, he would not care. He had already arrived outside the battle conference room. A few paladins standing at the door saw Li Cheng. Their pupils constricted as they immediately saluted, "Sir Earl, please, come in." "Okay." Li Cheng nodded lightly. After they opened the door, he walked in immediately. Once he entered the room, everyone's gaze fell on Li Cheng. Then, they ordered him to stand up. "Congratulations on becoming an Earl. The Church of Light has Earl Netherworld. Those evil forces will definitely tremble. I knew that you were a kind person the moment I met you, Earl Netherworld. To be able to obtain the approval of the God of Light, you're truly as I expected. Greetings, Your Excellency, Earl Netherworld. Let me introduce myself first. I'm..." All the commanders stood up to welcome him. The paladins of the Church of Light were not blockheads. Li Cheng was now an earl. If he gave up his territory and joined the Church of Light, he would immediately become the commander of the army. Of course, Li Cheng would not give up his territory. Even so, building a good relationship with him was beneficial to them. Moreover, he had become an earl in just 3 days. His future was limitless, it was immeasurable. Li Cheng nodded in response to these people who had shown goodwill. Even if he had no relationship with them, he would not bully others just because he was an earl. Who knows, someone might attack his territory in the future. He would still need these people to help him. After greeting them, Li Cheng went to Vic's side and sat down on his left. Seeing Li Cheng sit down, Commander Vic did not hesitate. He clapped his hands and said, "All right, Earl Netherworld has arrived. Let's start today's meeting." Chapter 76, March into the Shadow World. After seeing Li Cheng sit down, Commander Vic did not hesitate to start the meeting. "I think everyone knows that the passage to the Shadow World had suddenly opened, and we don't know much about the Shadow World either. The Shadow World's an independent main plane, and no large-scale passages have ever opened up in the past. According to my understanding, there are a lot of dangerous creatures in the Shadow World. Therefore, we mustn't let them enter the main world." At this point, everyone's expression became serious. Vic's gaze landed on Li Cheng. "Earl Netherworld, you opened the passage to the Shadow World. What information do you have?" Hearing this, everyone's gazes returned to Li Cheng, hoping to get some useful information from him. Li Cheng's expression did not change as he calmly said, "The Shadow World has existed for a long time. In the past wars between gods and demons, the Shadow World has always remained neutral. However, I think all of you know of the characteristics of the Shadow World by now. That place has a fatal attraction to evil creatures. The evil creatures in the Shadow World have far exceeded the usual standards. This isn't what the Shadow Dragon wants to see. Due to certain reasons, it can't act personally. Therefore, it wants to borrow the power of the other world lords to kill these evil creatures to achieve a balance." Hearing this, everyone nodded thoughtfully. Li Cheng's words helped them understand many things. If the Shadow Dragon had coveted this main world, it would not have used the players to destroy those evil creatures. Then, a commander reported, "Commander, our forces are very tight right now. The undead army in the east has affected a lot of our forces, and the cleanup of the Church of Poison hasn't been completed except for the area that the Earl Netherworld's in charge of." When he said this, he did not continue. The meaning was already very obvious. Everyone present understood that the Church of Light did not have the extra military strength to enter the Shadow World. For a moment, the combat meeting room fell into silence. After a long time, a regimental commander asked, "What about the other churches?" It must be known that not only the God of Light had established a church in the main world. There were also other powerful gods. They've all been thrown into the Eastern Front. Commander Vic sighed deeply. To carry out 2 large-scale battles in a short period of time, even the powerful Church of Light could not bear it. Hearing Commander Vic's words, the meeting room fell into silence again. It was not that they had no other choice, but they really did not have the extra troops to throw into another battlefield. Li Cheng then stood up and said, "Leave the task to me." As soon as he said that, the meeting room fell into silence again. Unlike the previous 2 times, the silence this time was of complete shock. So many of the other gods' churches could not mobilize their forces, and he, a lord of the other world, could do it. Was he going to deliver vegetables? However, seeing that it was Li Cheng who said it, these people did not refute him because Li Cheng had created too many miracles. In just a few days, he had taken the title of Earl of the Church of Light, and within a short day, he had completed the mission of cleaning up the Church of Poison stronghold in his area. If even Li Cheng could not do it, they truly could not think of anyone who could. After thinking briefly, Commander Vic asked, "Earl Netherworld, are you kidding?" Li Cheng shook his head. He continued, of course not, but this time, the main force will be the players. I hope that the church can release enough contribution points for them. Everyone knows that the shadow world's dangerous. Without sufficient benefits, the players won't agree to go. Hearing this, Vic's face displayed some hesitation. Releasing enough contribution points meant that the church had to give more benefits to the players. It was related to the church's financial problems. This was not something that he could decide alone. However, in the end, Vic still nodded his head fiercely. Yes, but I'll need to discuss the specific data with a few archbishops. Earl Netherworld, you'll only need to release the quest. Okay. Li Cheng smiled. Just as he agreed, the system's voice rang in his ear. Ding, dong, you've received the top secret mission of the Church of Light, the SSS class mission, Holy War, march into the shadow world. After receiving the mission, Li Cheng immediately checked the relevant information. Holy War, march into the shadow world, SSS. Mission description: the passage to the shadow world opened by accident. The Church of Light is ready to send you to clean up the evil creatures inside. Mission nature: only hidden, top secret. Mission difficulty: 1 billion. Mission details: 1. Build a holy war army, 0/3 billion. 2. Clear out the evil creatures in the shadow world. 3. Paladin survival, 70 million/10 million. 4. Ensure that the creatures in the shadow world are unable to invade the main world on a large scale. Quest reward: this quest is a top secret quest. The reward will depend on the score. Looking at the description and content of the quest, Li Cheng frowned slightly. A 1 billion difficulty quest was indeed a top secret quest, and the 4 quest requirements were not a big problem for Li Cheng. Because of Li Cheng's existence, the Divine Dragon Alliance had inspired many people. Their development was not bad. Each of them had at least 1,000 units of troops. In other words, as long as a few million players accepted Li Cheng's mission, they would be able to complete it. With Li Cheng's popularity in the Divine Dragon Alliance, this was not difficult to achieve. As for the second request, it did not say how many evil creatures they had to clear out. According to the past practices of the Church of Light, as long as they completed the requirements of the Shadow Dragon, they could be said to have met the standards. As for the third request, it was very simple for Li Cheng. These 70 million paladins were all allocated by the Church of Light to Li Cheng's troops. Although they said that they did not have the extra troops, they still had the 70 million paladins. Even in Li Cheng's eyes, this was a relatively terrifying number. Although these paladins' levels were not very high and most of them were at the intermediate level, their numbers were there. Based on Li Cheng's experience in the shadow world, he definitely would not go to those dangerous places without the right numbers. In a big battle, the paladin army would naturally suffer some casualties, but Li Cheng would also ensure that those numbers remained low. As for the fourth quest requirement, Li Cheng was certain that the creatures from the shadow world would not enter the main world on a large scale. There was absolutely no need to worry. This could be said to be a free mission. If he could not complete it, he would not even want it. Chapter 77, Holy War of Light. After coming out of the conference room, Li Cheng went to the mission bulletin board of the church and started to draft an SSS class mission announcement, and after a while, it was completed. After checking that there were no missing items, he clicked send. Shadow Holy War, SSS. Description: Earl Netherworld is about to launch a new holy war to clean up the evil forces in the shadow world. Mission nature: church mission. Mission content: kill the evil forces in the shadow world. Mission reward: gold coins, basic resources, contribution points. Requirements: Divine Dragon Alliance players, good faction, at least a level 1 lord with more than 1,000 soldiers. Peerless, Prideful and dogs are not allowed to accept the mission. Looking at the mission this time, Li Cheng added a few more requirements. Last time, Misty Forest and Death Valley were within the territory of the Divine Dragon Alliance. Even if other alliance players received them, it would be useless. This time, however, it was a world event. Li Cheng naturally would not let other forces from other alliances participate in it. Not just anyone could become his worker. Finally, it was Li Cheng's ultimate goal. 1/5 of the event points that the players received would be handed over to Li Cheng. Li Cheng was not a saint. Since he brought them to play, they naturally had to pay him. Just as Li Cheng pressed the button to issue the mission, the system's voice rang in the ears of every player from the Divine Dragon Alliance. Alliance announcement. The God-blessed Earl Netherworld has launched a holy war and issued an SSS-class church mission, Shadow Holy War. Players can go to the Church of Light to receive the mission. Alliance announcement. The system's notification rang 3 times. The players who heard the voice were stunned and then they began to discuss. It's actually an SSS class mission? Did I hear wrong? What privileges has Netherworld boss's title obtained? I have to hand over 1/5 of my activity points? Do I still have to accept this mission? Accept it. Last time, I earned 10,000 contribution points with Netherworld boss. Even if I had to hand over half, I'd still accept this mission, let alone 1/5 of the portion. Hehe, Netherworld boss triggered this event. Of course, I'd follow him. Unfortunately, some people are unable to sign up. I'm dying of laughter, ha ha ha. Well done, Netherworld boss. Only the players from the Divine Dragon Alliance can accept this quest. The other alliance members can only watch helplessly, haha. Last time, we were too far away from Death Valley, so we missed the quest. This time, we won't miss it no matter what. After seeing Li Cheng's quest, all the players started to move. Almost all the players from the Divine Dragon Alliance headed toward the Church of Light's stronghold, afraid that they would miss this event because they could not accept the quest. Some medium-sized guilds or gold farming groups did not hesitate to accept Li Cheng's quest. Only those large guilds hesitated. If they accepted the quest, they would have to work for Li Cheng, but if they did not accept it, everyone knew that following Li Cheng would earn them a lot of money. After discussing it, they finally chose to accept it. There was no other way. If they did not accept it, their own guild's development would lag behind by a large margin. There were many people with similar strengths who accepted the quest. After this event ended, their own guild would fall behind if they missed out on this opportunity. This was something that they could not tolerate. At this moment, a series of system notifications rang in Li Cheng's ears. Ding, dong, player 6,000-year-old butcher has received your quest. All his units will be treated as the Church of Light's troops. Ding, dong, player mighty and domineering for a long time has received your quest. All his units will be treated as the Church of Light's troops. Ding, dong, player smoked wind xi shen san san has received your quest. All his units will be treated as the Church of Light's troops. Ding, dong. Ding, dong, a special chat channel, battle, has been opened. Li Cheng did not expect that the players who received the quest would be so enthusiastic. In less than 5 minutes, his quest target had been achieved. This meant that millions of people had received the quest. At the same time, the system's voice rang again. Ding, dong. You have obtained 3 billion subordinates. Part of the mission, SSS Class Holy War, March into the Shadow World, has been achieved. Ding, dong. Due to the high numbers of your troops, this battle has been classified as a super large-scale battle. You can activate the Holy War of Light. Hint. After activation, everyone will receive the power boost from the God of Light. As soon as the voice finished speaking, a new panel appeared in Li Cheng's line of sight. On it was the number of troops participating in this battle. The numbers were still increasing rapidly. At this moment, Li Cheng had also pressed the button to activate the Holy War. Instantly, with a swoosh, holy and dazzling light pierced through the clouds and landed directly on Li Cheng's body. All the players in the City of Light looked over. At this moment, it was as if the God of Light possessed Li Cheng's body. He looked exceptionally holy. At the same time, the system's voice rang in Li Cheng's ears again. Ding, dong, due to the large scale of your army has received the buff, Holy War of Light. Ding, dong, as the highest commander of this holy war, you've received a special wartime skill. Ding, dong, you've triggered a 10,000 times amplification and obtained the SSS class skill, Rapid March. Ding, dong, you've triggered a 10,000 times amplification and obtained the SSS class skill, Frenzied Shooting. Ding, dong, you've triggered a 10,000 times amplification and obtained the SSS class skill, Desperate Boat. Ding, dong, you've triggered a 10,000 times amplification and obtained the SSS class skill, Holy Light Blessing. Battle announcement: the God-blessed Earl Netherworld has activated the Holy War. This battle has been defined as a holy war of the highest level holy. All players who have received the quest will receive the buff, Holy War of Glory. This buff will only be effective in the Shadow World. After a series of sounds, Li Cheng looked at the pile of skills. Holy War of Glory. Description: Brave adventurers, you have participated in a glorious battle. In order to expel evil, go and fight. The great God of Light is with you. Effect 1, all attacks on the evil forces plus 200%, defense plus 200%. Effect 2, all units attack speed plus 100%, movement speed plus 100%. The Holy War of Glory was a buff for the entire large-scale battle. As long as players received Li Cheng's quest, they would be able to enjoy it. Li Cheng looked at the effect of this buff and thought it was not too bad. Chapter 78, How about we quit Prideful? In his previous life, Li Cheng had participated in the Holy War, but he had never received such a powerful buff. His attack and defense stats were doubled, and so was his attack and movement speed. The buff was a doubling effect. Compared to the buff effect from last time, this one could be said to be several times more powerful. As the highest commander of this battle, Li Cheng had also unlocked many special skills. Rapid March, SSS. Level 1. Grade, SSS. Effect: after use, the movement speed of all Holy War troops will be increased by 500%. After activation, 1000 contribution points will be consumed per second. Cooldown time, none. Frenzied Shooting, SSS. Level 1. Grade, SSS. Effect: after use, the range of all Holy War long-range troops will be increased by 100% and attack speed will be increased by 100%. After activation, 1000 contribution points will be consumed per second. Desperate Boat, SSS. Level 1. Grade, SSS. Effect: after use, all troops of the Holy War will have their defenses decreased by 50% and attack increased by 200%. After use, 1000 contribution points will be consumed per second. This skill cannot be used at the same time as the Holy Light Blessing. Cooldown time, none. Holy Light Blessing, SSS. Level 1. Grade, SSS. Effect: after use, all Holy War troops will have their defenses increased by 500%. Upon activation, 1000 contribution points will be consumed per second. This skill cannot be used at the same time as Desperate Boat. Cooldown time, none. Strictly speaking, these four skills were considered strategic skills. They would only be activated during large-scale battles or holy wars, and the highest commander would obtain a few of these skills. These skills would increase the strength of all the troops participating in the holy war, and if used properly, they would definitely be able to change the outcome of the battle. As for the strength of these skills, it was also related to the Supreme Commander himself. After being amplified by 10,000 times, Li Cheng's strategic skills could be said to be ridiculously strong. Rapid march provided extremely strong mobility of the troops, directly increasing their movement speed by 5 times. Regardless of whether they were chasing after the enemy or fleeing, this skill was extremely powerful. Needless to say, the frenzied shooting and desperate boat were powerful explosive skills. Moreover, these two skills could be used at the same time. After activating these two skills, the long-range troops' attacks would be very terrifying. As for the Holy Light Blessing, it provided a powerful defensive ability, directly increasing their defense by 5 times. It was not an exaggeration to say that it was an invincible skill. There were gains and losses. While the 4 skills were powerful, the contribution points consumed per second was equally terrifying. If 3 skills were activated at the same time, the contribution points consumed per second would be 3,000. An ordinary commander would definitely not be able to bear it, but for Li Cheng, this was not a problem at all. Very soon, all the players who had received the Holy War quest were enveloped by that holy light. They all enjoyed the effect of the Holy War of Glory and could not help but sigh. *CK, isn't this effect too strong? Am I really seeing things? Ridiculous. Netherworld boss is awesome. The buff last time was already strong enough. I didn't expect it to be even more ridiculous this time. Ha ha ha, with this buff, my army's going to be invincible. Following Netherworld boss really brings a lot of benefits. With this buff, who cares about having to surrender 1/5 of the contribution points? At Netherworld boss, from now on, you'll be my idol. No, you've always been my idol. In an instant, screenshots of the Holy War's buff were quickly posted on the forum. Those players who were not interested in joining the Holy War instantly became jealous. Without care for anything else, they put down everything they were doing and rushed toward the Church of Light's stronghold. If Li Cheng's quest was closed, then they would really suffer a great loss. Some were happy while others were sad. On the other hand, some players were definitely unhappy. In Peerless Prideful skilled territory, Peerless Prideful's face darkened while listening to the system notification. Originally, as one of the 3 great guilds of the Divine Dragon Alliance, Peerless Prideful had also planned to guide the players to participate in this world event. Of course, the goal here was to let the other players become their workers and to fight for the welfare of their own guild. In the past, all the big guilds had done this, providing everyone a win-win opportunity. However, with the appearance of Li Cheng, everything changed. He single-handedly broke the profit chain of the big guilds. Peerless Prideful gritted his teeth, thinking to himself, if you don't want me to participate, I don't even want to. He immediately ordered the rest of the guild, everyone, don't accept Netherworld's quest. In the guild chat, the guild players were also discussing Peerless Prideful's order. This buff is so strong. I'm so envious. I'm jealous, but the guild leader doesn't want us to accept this quest. It's so unfair. Last time, my troops were all killed by Netherworld. Now, I haven't even managed to recruit as many troops. Speaking of which, I'm starting to regret it. Yet, Netherworld was able to face millions of monsters in the past. How did we even dare to fight him? Now that I think about it, we're really stupid. We know that we couldn't win, but we still tried to force our way through. Why don't we run away? As soon as these words were said, the entire group chat quieted down. Good God, how did you dare to say that in this group chat? Let's talk in private. As expected, the administrator immediately took action. He immediately banned this person from speaking and sent him out with a plane ticket. Then, a notice immediately appeared, warning the players. However, the seed of what that person said had already been planted. This thought spread in the hearts of countless people. Not long after, a message popped up on the administrator's page. Ding, dong, main punishment has exited the Prideful Guild's group chat. The moment such a message was sent out, it was as if the floodgates of a dam had been opened and the floodwaters within could no longer be stopped. Ding, dong, Yu Luo has exited the Prideful Guild's group chat. Ding, dong, Thunder Roar Thousand Army has exited the Prideful Guild's group chat. Ding, dong, Killing Intent in the Crotch has exited the Prideful Guild's group chat. All of a sudden, all of the Prideful Guild's players sent out received such news. Countless people had chosen to leave. In the early stages of the game, no one had created a guild in-game thus far. Joining a guild at this stage only meant that the players were joining the group chat and playing together. Leaving the guild now would not cause them any losses at all. At most, they would just be resented by the Prideful Guild. To them, that was nothing. Peerless Prideful received the report from his subordinate immediately, but he did not care at all. He said disdainfully, "They're all unspecialized players. How could the core of our Prideful Guild be affected by Netherworld's small benefits?" Chapter 79, The Saintess NPC has been abducted by Netherworld. As for those unspecialized players quitting, it did not make Peerless Pride angry at all. Instead, he was thanking Li Cheng in his heart for helping him get rid of the dross. He knew that ordinary players would always act based on benefits. If Peerless Pride could not give them any benefits, they would naturally leave, so it did not affect him at all. However, at this moment, a few messages popped up once again. Ding, dong, Pride Doesn't Listen has exited Pride's core elite group. Ding, dong, Pride's Little Luo has exited Pride's core elite group. Ding, dong, Pride's third brother has exited Pride's core elite group. The players whose IDs started with Pride were naturally the Prideful Guild's core players. However, these core players could no longer resist the temptation this time. Li Cheng only stated that Peerless Prideful was not allowed to participate, so they could completely withdraw from the Prideful Guild to receive the quest. As the core elites of the Prideful Guild, their experience in playing online games was naturally incomparably rich. They did not need to think too hard to figure out how valuable the Holy War buff that Li Cheng had activated was. Hearing the news, Peerless Prideful was so angry that he almost vomited blood. It was fine if the unspecialized players had withdrawn, it was not a big deal. However, the withdrawal of the core players was akin to cutting off his flesh. He had spent some resources and money on those people, but they left just like that. Netherworld, just you wait. Our Prideful Guild's not that easy to bully. Sooner or later, you'll have to pay the price for this. Peerless Prideful's face was as dark as steel as he gnashed his teeth. Li Cheng naturally did not care about what actions Peerless Prideful would take. It could be said that he did not care about him at all. At this time, he had already arrived at the City of Light's barracks. The total number of troops he exchanged for was 12 million. He could also recruit 1 million for free, so in total, that was 13 million troops. With such a scale, it would take a certain amount of time to gather. In the military camp, Li Cheng saw a figure that surprised him. Asilia was wearing a tight-fitting white dress. In her hand was a magic staff that emitted a gentle glow. She could be considered an acquaintance. Li Cheng stepped forward and asked, "Miss Saintess, what are you doing?" Asilia smiled and replied, "I want to participate in this holy war, Earl Netherworld." Hearing this, Li Cheng was slightly surprised. He thought that he had heard wrong and could not help but ask again, "Are you sure?" In the Church of Light, the Archbishop and Saintess generally did not participate in military operations. They were mainly responsible for preaching and gathering faith. Asilia nodded. "Don't worry, I won't be a burden." As for whether Asilia would be a burden, Li Cheng was not worried at all. Although this Saintess in front of him was only 16 years old, her ability was still extremely abnormal. As a Saintess, her healing skills could be said to be superb. Li Cheng remembered that in his previous life, Asilia had the feat of bringing tens of millions of people back to life. What Li Cheng could not understand was why Asilia wanted to participate in the war. However, if she wanted to go, Li Cheng would not refuse, so he simply nodded at her request. Seeing that Li Cheng had agreed, Acilia heaved a sigh of relief. At the same time, the system's voice rang in Li Cheng's ear. Ding, dong. You've temporarily obtained the S-Class hero, Saintess Acilia. Region announcement. Saintess Acilia has temporarily joined player Netherworld's territory. Other players will not be able to exchange for goods for the time being. Please, wait patiently. This announcement rang in the ears of the players 3 times. Upon hearing this notification, all the players were stunned. With her outstanding looks and her pure and simple temperament, Acilia had long captured the hearts of the players. On the official forums, Acilia was rated as the most beautiful NPC lady. However, now that the lady had been kidnapped by Netherworld, the players immediately wailed in grief. F***ck, Netherworld, you old thief, give me back my Saintess. Woo woo woo, the goddess in my heart, why have you joined someone else's territory? D***mn, Netherworld has snatched my Saintess away, that's mine. Saintess, that's my dream. Why must it be Netherworld's territory? Could it be that I'm not handsome enough? Don't you have any shame? Miss Acilia only joined Netherworld's territory temporarily. If she really wanted to join a territory, she'd be a powerhouse like the big boss Netherworld. My urine's a little yellow. Let me wake them up. Everyone, don't be anxious. Didn't you hear the system say that it's only temporary? After another 10 minutes, all the troops had gathered. A total of more than 10 million troops were standing there. It looked quite spectacular. In fact, their composition could be considered very mixed. There were level 3 low-level warriors, level 9 high-level paladins, ordinary close combat soldiers, front row meat shield soldiers, and flying griffin knights. However, compared to ordinary player teams, they were definitely much stronger. Seeing that the troops had gathered, Li Cheng did not say anything else. He waved his hand and said, "Let's go." Considering the overall speed of the troops, Li Cheng did not transform into a dragon knight, so Sylvia naturally did not transform into a dragon. An hour later, they could already see his territory. This is... Acilia looked at Li Cheng's territory and was immediately shocked. The city walls came from the Church of Light, so she was very familiar with it. However, those defense towers were too ridiculous. Even the City of Light only had more than 20 legendary defense towers. Just the daily consumption of these defense towers made Acilia feel like she was burning money. How much did Li Cheng have? Was this really something that a human could do? Acilia almost swore. A mere lord of an other world, and his territory's defense was so much stronger than the City of Light? Of course, it was only a single legendary defense tower, but that was too shocking for the Saintess. Li Cheng ignored Acilia and led his troops to Pearl. "I'll leave these troops to you." Pearl was stunned. She could not believe what she heard. "All these troops will be led by me." This was not just a few units, but 13 million. Was her lord really not joking with her anymore? "That's right, it's all yours. You don't need to bring your trash troops," Li Cheng said casually, not taking it seriously at all. After making sure that she did not hear wrongly, Pearl nodded solemnly. She understood that this was Li Cheng's test for her. In fact, that was indeed the case. Although she was a famous player in her previous life and was ranked among the best in the Divine Dragon Alliance, Li Cheng still did not have a clear understanding of her abilities. This time, he would see for himself just how good her ability was. Chapter 80, Entering the Shadow World. If you can't even lead an army of 10 million, you'd better go home, wash up, and sleep. As for revenge, don't even think about it. What right does a piece of trash have to think about revenge? Li Cheng did not care about formalities and said to Pearl directly. Hearing this, Pearl was shocked. That was right. If she could not even lead an army of 13 million, what could she do to take revenge? Just words? In the past, she could have said that she was not strong enough, but Li Cheng had given her the strength. If she could not even control this troop, she really should go home and wash up. Thinking of this, Pearl took a few deep breaths and said solemnly, "Don't worry, I won't let you down." Li Cheng nodded and did not say anything else. If these 13 million troops were to really fight, no one would be her opponent. It was never really about the number of soldiers but the proficiency of the commander. These troops were perfect for Pearl to practice her skills. After all the troops were assembled, Li Cheng temporarily handed over all the priests to Asilia, from the level 5 intermediate priests to Li Cheng's own priests. Among Asilia's skills, she had additional healing skills. It could be said to be the most suitable. After confirming that the defensive towers in his territory were all in operation, Li Cheng did not leave behind any troops to defend the city. If those magic traps, city walls, and legendary defensive towers could not defend his territory against the enemy when he was not here, his defensive troops would not be of any use either. Unlike normal players, Li Cheng could control the passage to the Shadow World, which meant that he could return to his territory at any time. If anyone dared to attack his territory, his army would be able to return instantly. Thinking up to this point, Li Cheng did not hesitate and opened the passage to the Shadow World immediately. Instantly, a dark grey teleportation door that was spinning non-stop appeared in front of him. Li Cheng gestured to Pearl and walked in as she followed closely behind. After a feeling of weightlessness, Li Cheng once again felt the ground beneath his feet. At the same time, he heard the system notification ring. Ding, dong, you've entered the special map, Shadow World. Ding, dong, Shadow World is a special plane that's independent from the main world. Please, be careful. Ding, dong, as the first player in the world to enter Shadow World, you've obtained 100 reputation points. Ding, dong, you've triggered a 10,000 times amplification and obtained 1 million reputation points. As the system's voice fell, Li Cheng began to size up the scene in the Shadow World. There were only two colors in the Shadow World, black and white, so the scene in Li Cheng's eyes was filled with dark grey radial lines. The sun in the sky was also emitting a pale light, expelling some of the darkness. Li Cheng was not unfamiliar with the Shadow World, so he quickly adapted to it. Sylvia's originally ice blue hair had also turned dark grey. At this time, Pearl came back to her senses. Only then did she confirm that she had entered the Shadow World. She could not help but feel a little shocked. The time was now past 10 in the morning and it was almost 2 hours before the Shadow World would open. How did I get in? Thinking of this, she looked at Li Cheng. He could actually enter the Shadow World ahead of time? As a top-tier player, Pearl knew very well what it meant to enter 2 hours ahead of time. Although it was only 2 hours, these 2 hours were enough to do a lot of things. Even if an ordinary player came in 2 hours earlier than others, their progress would be much faster than the rest, let alone a super strong player like Li Cheng. While Pearl was lost in her thoughts, Lillian suddenly waved her hand, and countless heavenly knights charged toward a shadow. Suddenly, a strange ear-piercing scream came from a short distance away. In the next moment, a system notification rang in Li Cheng's ears. Ding, dong, your team has successfully killed a gold-grade boss, ghost creature, a two-headed ghost beast. You've obtained EXP. Ding, dong, you've triggered a 10,000 times increase and obtained EXP. Ding, dong, your heavenly knight has leveled up, currently at level 2. Ding, dong, your heavenly knight has leveled up, currently at level 10. Ding, dong. You've obtained 500 contribution points from the Church of Light. You've triggered a 10,000 times amplification and obtained 500 million contribution points from the Church of Light. Ding, dong. You've obtained 30,000 shadow points. You've triggered a 10,000 times amplification and obtained 300 million shadow points. Ding, dong. After a series of system notifications, Pearl finally saw a terrifying monster that was more than 5 meters tall slowly fall to the ground where the heavenly knights had charged. Its body was entirely made up of grey shadows, like a carnivorous creature. It had two huge ugly heads. Its body was hidden in the shadow world, completely integrated with the surrounding scenery. It was completely undetectable. Li Cheng did not find anything strange about this. The monsters in the shadow world had one main characteristic, which was that they were hard to detect. In his previous life, when the players attacked this place, they had suffered a lot. In the end, the players would have to cast a scouting spell with each step they took. This two-headed ghost beast was a level 50 gold grade boss. Under the attack of the Heavenly Knights, it died instantly. Lillian looked at the ghost beast's corpse and sighed. They were just ordinary ghost dogs in the past. I don't know why they became like this. Seeing that Lillian was not in high spirits, Li Cheng walked up to her and gently rubbed her head as he said calmly, "If the Shadow Dragon wants to maintain the balance of the shadow world, it must allow the existence of evil. Everything's relative. This is an extremely wrong view, Earl Netherworld." Hearing Li Cheng's words, Asilia was obviously unhappy. She looked at Li Cheng with a serious expression and said angrily, "All evil should be dispelled and destroyed." Hearing this, the corner of Li Cheng's mouth involuntarily twitched. He had forgotten that there was still a Saintess in his army. Asilia was the most devout believer of the God of Light, so she naturally believed in the God of Light's tricks. However, he, Li Cheng, was neutral. He did not have the Saintess's Holy Mother's heart. So what if he was kind? So what if he was evil? It was just that their standpoints were different and their natures were different. Therefore, these two camps were born to be enemies. What did all this have to do with him? Li Cheng did not explain much. He chose to ignore Asilia and instead, focused on the reward he received. This was what he wanted.